Hey, and welcome back. In this video, we are going to go through the recruiter's pages. So firstly, we're going to start with the recruiter's onboarding page. So the recruiter just has step 1 and then the welcome page. Okay, so when a recruiter fills out their onboarding information over here, this is a simple, Memberstack profile form. But we also need to send this form to update the information inside of Airtable. So what we're going to do is the same thing that we did for the candidate side. The scenario that works for this is when a user updates their profile. Okay, so we have a webhook over here that has been defined inside of Memberstack. And we did touch on this part in the previous videos. But in this case, we are going to run this scenario and it's going to reroute to this section at the bottom. So we're basically giving it a filter to say, create a record inside of Airtable, and we want to create a new recruiter, right? So not create, but update the recruiter inside of Airtable. Okay. So we're essentially saying when that recruiter has updated information and there's a custom field for company size, for example, and that custom field is not empty. So the recruiter has filled in their company size. That way we know it's a recruiter. And then it will update a record inside of Airtable. So it looks for the record that was linked to that member inside of Airtable. And then it updates all of the information. And that is it for the onboarding part of a recruiter. Okay, so moving on to the recruiters. Oh, yes. Another thing to note with when a recruiter has completed their onboarding form, they'll be redirected to their welcome page. So this is a simple welcome page for the recruiters, and that just directs them to their dashboard. This button has a login redirect to direct a recruiter to their login page, their login redirect URL to the dashboard of the recruiter. This is the recruiter's dashboard. At the very top, we have a attribute over here for the name, for data MS first name. This button will go to their create a job form, which we'll touch on in the next couple of videos. And then recruiters over here will be able to see all of their screening applicants, hired applicants, and then their recently posted jobs. We'll first start with the recently posted jobs section. The button at the very top goes to all of their active jobs. And then over here, as you can see, we've just created a skeletal structure, and this will be rendered inside of Wized. For this section or this element, we've given it an attribute of recruiter home all jobs. And then inside, it has this similar naming structure, recruiter job name, and then we have recruiter job company logo, and then the button as well. You can see the button is not defined in here because we have to define the button inside of Wized. And this particular job post for recruiters will redirect them to the job post recruiter page, because these two pages have to be different for these two types of roles. So for the recruiter and the candidate. And then we have an empty state over here to just show when a recruiter obviously has not posted any jobs. Okay, going back to Wized, I'm currently logged in as a recruiter, and all of these jobs that you see over here are linked to me as a recruiter. So if I go inside of job posts over here, and then I just clear these records, like this, and then I go back to Wized and refresh this, you'll be able to see that I only now have 3 jobs under me. And to verify that over here, I only have 3. Okay, so that's how we know this is set up correctly. And now we can start by binding our data for our recruiters posts or recruiters jobs. So just to open up this attribute over here at the very top, we want to render all of the recruiters jobs if that request that we just defined, so load recruiters job posts, has a status of 200, meaning it was successful, and the logged in member, so this Memberstack request, the current logged in member is equal to the member ID here and the Airtable ID over here. When those are all true, like this, then we will load all of the recruiters job posts. And then we use a variable again for making sure that we return with dynamic data. So it just references the request that we've defined, so load recruiters job posts, and that gives us 3 records. And if you can verify that again, inside of Airtable, there are 3 records linked to me as a logged in member. And then you can start binding the data. So the recruiter's logo, we set that as the source, and then we now call the request that we set up. So load recruiter job posts. We use V to make sure that everything is dynamic. All of the company images are dynamic and not pulling in one company logo. And then the field, and then that field will be company logo. You do the same for recruiter job name, but in this case, it's not an image, it's plain text, and just bind it to the job name according to the payload. And then we have the recruiter home all jobs. So for all of these buttons that you want to basically send a user somewhere, most of these buttons inside of Wized are defined with parameters so that we can basically take certain IDs to the next page. Okay, so for this button, we've defined the same parameter as before. But in this case, it's job ID. And it now has the value of recruiter job post, and the record will be that job's ID. So a particular job's ID. And again, make sure it's dynamic. Now, this button, when it's clicked, it will lead a user to job post details page with the parameter that you defined. So when a recruiter clicks this button, it will lead them to the job post recruiter page. And you can verify that again with the slug. So this is job post details inside of Wized, job post details with the ID that you defined. And if I click on a particular job post over here, you'll see that I'm redirected to the recruiter's job post for that particular job. And you can also verify that by opening the navigation over here and then just reading the URL to make sure that it actually is on the right page. The recruiter job post page and the candidate page, job post page, are different because the recruiter's job post page gives them the ability to set a job as marked closed and gives them the ability to delete a job post. We'll touch on this page in the next video. Just heading back to the recruiter's dashboard. There are other elements on this dashboard as well. So heading back over here inside of Webflow, if I just click X-ray, you'll see that there are more attributes for Wized applicant screening count, and we'll set that up inside of Wized as well, and Wized applicant hired count. This is to show how many applicants a recruiter has hired. So when they set their status of the applicant as hired, and then this is to show how many of them the recruiter is currently screening. And we'll touch on those ones in the next videos. Okay, the last element on this page is the job post. Basically the empty state for when a recruiter doesn't have jobs. And if I just open up all of my elements on this page, I will see it over here. And that has been defined as if the request of load job posts records and the request of load all jobs records is equal to 0, then essentially show that empty state. So just to show you what this looks like, if I just emptied all of these, And then I close this, close the X-ray, reload the page. So recruiters that haven't posted any jobs will be able to see the empty state. And this button will direct them to the page where they can now create a new job post. Okay, I will see you in the next video where we will touch on the remaining pages of the recruiter's dashboard. So we'll first touch on the active and closed jobs, and then we'll go to the applicants pages. Right, see you in the next video.